Hello and welcome. Let's solve another problem today. Print all subsequences of a string. So the problem statement is that we are given a string and we have to find all the subsequences of the string. Subsequences, a string is said to be a subsequence of another string if it can be obtained by deleting 0 or more characters, and we have to make sure that we do not change the order. So let's look at an example to further solidify our understanding. So let's say you're given AB. An empty string will be a substring of AB because all the characters were deleted. B has been deleted and then you get A. Again, B is a subsequence because A was deleted here. And then finally AB because no characters were deleted here. Okay. Let's look at the second example. ABC. So we are given ABC. Empty string is one possible subsequence because all characters were deleted. A, B, and C are subsequences. Again, 1, 0 or more characters were deleted. AB is a subsequence where C was deleted, and AC is a subsequence where B was deleted. Now, AC is a special case. It's an interesting case because this is where the constraints that we talked about, which is deleting 0 or more character and then maintaining the order, both stand out. Both these constraints stand out. So look at this. Let's look at this again. AC, we were able to delete B, which is we are deleting 0 or more characters from it, but then we are also making sure that the order is maintained. Let's look at that once more. The order here is maintained. A and C appear in the same order as they appeared in the original string. So we did not really change the order to CA. No, we are still following the same order. So this is something which we have to really understand about this question. Now, next, before moving on to the approach, how about we think about choosing the characters, which means that if I'm trying to generate an empty string, instead of saying that I delete all the characters, I can also say that I do not choose any character here. So not choose any char, right? And similarly, if we're trying to make the subsequence A, we can say that I choose character A. And so goes for B, C, and all the other characters. So we're just changing the verbiage here so that we are in a better position to understand the approach for solving this problem. We use a decision tree. And 2, in each branch, we make 2 choices. Either to choose a character or not choose a character. This approach will become more clearer as we start drawing our decision tree. So let's say that we have our second example, ABC, and we create a decision tree out of it, where on each step we make a choice to either use one character or not use character. So for example, here we make a choice to either use A or not use A. So the intermediary node that you get for the tree will have A. The second node that you will create will not have A. So in other words, we are making a decision to either choose the character at index 0 or not choose the character at index 0, right? And the intermediary nodes that you will get will either have A or it will not have A. Similarly, if we keep going to the left, we take the same decision of either choosing B or not choosing B. So here, when you do choose B, you'll get A, B, but on the right, you'll get A because we did not choose B here. We go on, make a similar choice to choose C here, and your node will become ABC. And on the right, you say that I don't choose C. This is our terminal case where there are no more characters to be explored because our example was A, B, and C. We're already done with C here. So this is so as to say the leaf node of your decision tree. Here you make a choice. So B was already deleted, but you still make a choice for C. So here you include C. Here you do not include C. Next we come to the right. We make a decision to either choose B. So in this case, your intermediary node will become B, or we do not choose B. So when we do not choose B, you again have an empty string. We make the same choice of either choosing C, so the string will become BC, or we do not choose C. We make the same choice here, C or no C. On the final level, where you're making a choice for C, your leaf nodes, if you look closely, now have your answer. I think it's worthwhile to understand this as to how we arrived here. So the path in the decision tree that we took was this here, where we chose A, and then we came into the right, we deleted B, but then we included C, and that is how we removed that middle character from the string AC. In my opinion, this is a very important leaf node to understand. If you understand this, you'll understand the decision tree. Just to help you revise, this is the example 2 that we started with, ABC. In each branch, we are making a decision to either choose A or not choose A. So when we choose A shows up in our intermediary node. When we do not choose A does not show up, and we will have an empty string here. Similarly, if you look onto the right, for A, when we choose B for the next result, AB will show up in our intermediary node, and on the right, B will not show up. So we'll just have A. And when we keep going down, we have this tree created where the leaf nodes create the result that we want. So all good. We understand the binary decision tree that we created here. We understand the question, and everything is good and rosy here. But how do we transform this into code? So let's start with augmenting this tree or adding some more data onto this tree. Say I add a function here where my first argument is my example. My second argument is the index that I'm about to take a decision over. So here we are about to take a decision over A, which is my 0th index in my string, right? And then the third argument that I add is an empty string. Now this empty string is a very common technique. So whenever you're trying to record intermediary results, like in this case, we want somewhere to store these node values when we're building our decision tree. The best place to have or to remember this data is your arguments. So this is why we add this. Just bear with me. When we dry run this, you'll understand how it can be used, and you'll be successfully able to use this for your future questions as well. So once you have this function call setup, let's try to go back towards the left of the decision tree. The way I'll complete this is I'll write my function here the same way. I'll write my example that I had, and then I will be incremented, because next time I will be taking a decision on my index 1 character, which is B. That is why I will be incremented here. Similarly, if you keep going, you have a string here 2, because I again will be incremented, and what you see in cyan here, these are our intermediary results that we're storing. So again, we're trying to visualize this decision tree in form of a function call. This will be very useful, but we have to start understanding this, how these function calls are being created. Now if you go and do the same, in this case, my function call will look something like this. So 2 will become 3, and my AB will become ABC. So this is where my terminal condition hits, and I'll need to do something about when my index is greater than, actually we can just say it is equal to the length of my example. So this is my terminal condition. So one thing is clear from this decision tree. You're taking 2 decisions on each node. We all know that we are making 2 calls here. One call is to the left. So this will be to the left, and this will be to the right. If you further think about the code, you will have the original string as the first parameter. When you're going to the left, we have I, where I will always get incremented. We've seen that I always gets incremented on all the steps. So if you focus on this number here, I gets incremented on all the steps. Perfect. And then you make 2 decisions for the third parameter. So whatever you get from your temporary result, let's say current, either you add the current element or you do not add the current element. So the first 2 parameters remains the same. The original string I gets incremented. And in your second case, the second, it doesn't, the element that you're deciding over doesn't get incremented. That's what your DFS calls will look like. This is the crux of our logic, where we go to the left and the right branches. The only thing which is left here is to talk about how the terminal case will be planned. It will become very clear once I show you the code. So the code, as you can see, it's a very short piece of code. This is the crux of the code that we discussed. Index, where the index is getting incremented on each step. Here you're making a choice to whether include that specific index in your particular decision tree or not. This is the part that we did not discuss earlier, but this is it's very apparent here. When the index reaches 3, you just append the intermediary result and return. And this essentially collects all our leaf nodes and all our results in the result array so that you can return it. One last thing to notice here is the initial statement that we start with. We start with 0 and an empty string, exactly what we did here. This parameter is not defined, like I said. The parameter s parameter, which is our global parameter, is already available in scope because this function DFS is defined within the generate subsequences function. And there you have it, folks. This was a problem, subsequences of a string. We really took our time to understand the approach here. This approach will be very useful when you try to solve the questions like combination sum 1, 2, and 3. I think this works in all the 3 problems, and this will be a whole lot useful if you internalize this. Please make a point to dry run this and create a similar decision tree for yourself for some more examples so that this becomes absolutely crystal clear to you. Thank you so much. See you in the next one.